pleasure.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond. James Bond. Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Welcome to episode 9 of James Bond Radio. I'm Chris Wright, and I've got my good buddy Tom. Say hi, Tom.
All right, man.
All right, man. Oh, what a response! I love it. I thought. Do you know what I thought you were going to say? What's happening, baby?
I wish I had almost worked in a catchphrase at the beginning of this whole podcast experience, and that would have been my greeting for every episode. Damn it, missed opportunity.
Oh. You'll have to throw in one unexpected and see how it goes.
Yeah,
so.
just at some.
How are you feeling?
Episode.
How are you feeling today? You all right?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm excited because today is our day where we have our first ever guest speaker on James Bond Radio, and I'm very excited to chat to him. We've got Mr. Aaron Cooley, who wrote this book, Shaken Not Stirred, which is a somewhat fictionalized account of Ian Fleming's life during World War II. And some of the adventures he got up to, which is good. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's good. I haven't had a chance to read all the book, but I've read a bit about it and how he's sort of gone about writing it, and it sounds really good. It sounds interesting, you know. So yeah, look forward to speaking to him. And
I'm the same. I'm one of those people that buys a load of books and then just they go on a stack on the wall, and it takes me ages to get through them. So it's in my queue. I still haven't read Solo yet. I don't know if you can see it on my shelf behind me. It's sitting there, ready to be read at the top of the queue, but I just haven't got around to it yet. So we'll do that soon. So before we hand over to the interview itself, I'd like you guys to head on over to Facebook and add us on there, like us on there rather, James Bond Radio. Just put that in the search bar and you'll find us. We're building up quite a nice little community over there actually, and we've had some cool little discussions and bits and bobs thrown up over there. You can get us on Twitter, which is at James Bond Radio, and you can also sign up on our website jamesbondradio.com and take the Ultimate Bond Quiz, which is a bonus episode not available on YouTube or iTunes or anywhere else, where Chris and I play along through a long quiz of 100 Bond questions, and you can get your Bond ranking and see where you fall in your fandom skills. And last but not least, if you do one of those things, please leave us a review on iTunes, because it helps us to rank higher and all that kind of stuff. So if you could just leave us a glowing 5-star review saying how wonderful and handsome and eloquent we both are, that would be good. We'd really appreciate that, wouldn't we, Chris?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No one would know they're lying, so that's good.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. So I guess then we should do our little bit of trivia before we hand over to the interview. So my question of the day is,
okay, far away.
When do we see Bond ski for the third time in the series?
Third
of
time.
Bond movies?
Oh, okay. So what? The third film? Or the third time, which could be 3 times within a film.
That's good. You caught me there. It's the third film that we see it happen.
Right. Okay. I'll have to have a good think about that one.
Well done for catching it out.
Yeah. Okay. And question for you. I'm not going to say which film, but how does Dr. Tynan die?
Okay. Yeah, I got that one.
Okay. Nice. Like it.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, then. So let's hand it on over. So we had a chat with Mr. Aaron Cooley about his book Shaken Not Stirred, and here it is. Okay, so we have our very first interviewee guest on James Bond Radio. We have Mr. Aaron Cooley. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing okay. Are we going to reveal what time it is to the audience, or does that break your secrets?
No. I think we have to. I think we have to sort of show how keen and determined you are, because Aaron's actually getting on a plane. He's over in LA, and obviously we're over in England. So tell me what time it is for you, Aaron, at the moment.
It's 3:56 a.m.
That's dedication.
I have to get on a 6 a.m. flight to New York for work, and I didn't want to cancel on you guys because I've loved what I've heard of the show so far, and I really love that you're doing this, and I'm honored to be the first guest. So I got up an hour early. But if I start babbling about the Portland Trailblazers or something, you'll just have to roll with me. I apologize.
Well, nothing gets me out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, so you're more dedicated than I am, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Good job, Aaron. Good job.
So we thought we'd have a little format with any guests where we start things rolling with 007 quick fire questions, so we get to know where you're coming from as a Bond fan.
Okay. Oh man, this is gonna make me nervous.
Yeah, so you know how it is. Like in the olden days, people would say you can judge a man by his record collection or the books he has on his bookshelf and all that kind of stuff. We've got a Bond version of that. So.
Oh, great.
So there we go. So who's kicking off? Is it me asking the first question or you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll start off. I'll start off the quick fire. So yeah, like we said, we've got 7 questions. Some of them might be not so quick fire, but we'll leave those towards the end. So first, number 1, quick fire question. Aaron Cooley, what is your favorite Bond film?
My favorite Bond film, and you just want one. I can't cop out and do like 3.
Just the one.
My favorite is probably Thunderball.
Nice.
Yeah, I could go into. I have emotional attachments to different ones depending on what time of my life I saw it in. I remember the first one I saw. I remember the first one I saw in the theater. To me, Thunderball is the first Bond movie that really fits all the pegs of what a Bond movie is supposed to be. It's the first kind of big action film Bond movie. I usually say Goldfinger and Thunderball kind of together are when the franchise became what it is, but you guys only wanted one. And then I've always mentioned Casino Royale because I feel like that obviously breathed new life into the franchise, and that also, the time that it came in my life, helped inspire me to write my book.
Well, you seem very much a man after our own heart, so that's good. Good answer.
Well, a lot of times I think, and I know you want to get to the next question, I have a big theory about this. What's been great about Bond, what the Broccoli's have done so well, is they have perfectly cast and set the tone for each new Bond for that period in time. And because of that, I feel like every guy's favorite Bond and favorite Bond movie usually comes in like their early teens. Just a theory.
Yeah,
absolutely right. For me, it was my first one in the cinema was GoldenEye, and that's the one that like got me into it. And I was 13 at the time, so it came along just at the right moment. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I have this weird, unhealthy love for Timothy Dalton and anger that he didn't do more. And it's because The Living Daylights was the first Bond movie I saw in the theater, and I absolutely loved it. I saw View to a Kill was the first one I saw, I think, on Betamax. No. And then Living Daylights was the first one I saw in the theater.
Cool. Okay, so question number 2 is,
yes,
what is your favorite Bond book?
That's easy, much easier. From Russia with Love.
Chris predicted you were going to say that.
Yeah. It's my favorite one too. I think it's pretty much one of the best ones for the majority of people, isn't it? But a good reason for it as well.
But my favorite non-Ian Fleming Bond book is John Pearson's, I can't remember what it's called, the Unauthorized Bond Autobiography, or Bond. I can't remember if it's an autobiography or biography, but that book is just fantastic and really plays with the form and with narrative and with who's narrating it. It's so fun, and it inspired a lot of how I did my book too. So those would be my two. My favorite Fleming, my favorite non-Fleming.
I haven't read the non-Fleming, so I'll definitely have to check that one out. So, okay, on to question 3. This is a good one. Who is your favorite Bond girl?
Oh.
This gets dangerous.
That's tough as well.
3 guys together talking about Bond girls, it can get...
Grace Jones. Can I say Grace Jones?
You can if you like.
No, it's probably, just sitting here, and maybe it's because she's over your shoulder, but Ursula Andress, I just think, created that iconic form. I don't know even the words. I'm luckily my wife's out of town, so I don't have to struggle too much. I always think of Hallie, though. I don't know why. I think it was great to see a big star play a Bond girl, and I think the shot of her coming out of the water is iconic. But the one I was most emotionally attached to was Eva Green, to be honest, which is another reason why I thought Casino Royale was so I think successful. She wasn't just a Bond girl; you actually really cared. By the way, I have to show you guys. I'm here with a white cat in my in my lap, like I'm Blofeld or Dr. Evil or the villain from Inspector Gadget.
I like it.
Yeah, he's purring. He loves your show.
Oh,
Yeah.
First fan from the Animal Kingdom. That's
right.
Okay, so next question is, who is your favorite Bond actor?
Well, I'll come clean then and say Timothy Dalton, because he was that first one I saw in the theater, and I mean, obviously Connery is the best if I was, doing a ranking, but for my personal connection, it's that first Bond you see when you're a teenage boy. For me, it was Timothy Dalton. But again, every Bond, because there's some I haven't liked, but every Bond has been perfect for his era. And I think that's kind of the genius of what the Broccoli's have done.
I'm glad you said that, because that's been my motto, because you tend to find with each new Bond, the previous guy suddenly gets a lot of flack and a lot of bad press and all the rest of it, saying like, the new guy's obviously better. Pierce being a particular example of that. But I think if you take them in the context of the time in which they were Bond, every one of them is perfect for that time.
Yeah, or else the franchise wouldn't still be going. So
that's definitely right. And the fact is that everyone's got their favourite Bond, so there's a Bond film for everyone and there's a Bond actor for everyone, which is great.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so on to the next question. You kind of answered this partially, but what is your earliest memory of Bond?
My earliest memory is seen at this video store called Captain Video in Oregon, where I grew up, Portland, Oregon. Seeing this, I have these early memories of the first video store I went to, Captain Video, and I remember seeing the case for A View to a Kill and seeing that the Golden Gate Bridge was on it. And we went to San Francisco every year because my family was from San Francisco. So it just looked so exciting. I really wanted to see it. And it's so funny because I also remember seeing this big poster in that video store for this crazy movie with Mr. T called DC Cab. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but that is now the guy who directed DC Cab was Joel Schumacher, who's now been my boss for the last decade. So it's funny the memories we have from our childhood. But I remember that. I remember going to the Living Daylights for the first time. I remember one of my friends telling me I was, stupid that I hadn't seen a Sean Connery one yet. And so we rented 3 of those and watched them all over a weekend. So
that's a good friend.
There's another cop-out 3-part answer for you.
Cool. Okay, next question. We're on question 006. Is if you could visit one Bond location from one of the movies, which one would it be?
I want to visit. And I'm gonna butcher this. I should know. I usually know if it wasn't 4 a.m. But is it You Only Live Twice up in Switzerland with the ski slopes, or is that On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
On Her Majesty's.
I want to go up there.
Yeah.
Okay, On Her Majesty's. I want to go up there because the resort that's up there was built specifically for the film, and so I feel like that location is kind of the most historic in the film series in terms of still existing, and also that's always been one of my favorite scenes and sequences, and it's why I set the end of my book in a snowy locale in Norway. So that's one answer. And then since I'm copying out on every answer, my second part, I mean, my real dream is to go to Golden Eye in Jamaica, where you can still rent a room in Ian Fleming's old house, but that's not really in a Bond movie. So I'm sorry. That's why I'm giving the 2-part answer.
Chris, I've got to say, I like this guy, man. He's got good taste. He said Thunderball, he's name-checked Casino Royale, and he's name-checked On Her Majesty. So that's the holy three as far as I'm concerned. That's 3.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, 3 great films. And that was my answer as well. If any location for me, it would be Peace Gloria from On Her Majesty's. You can imagine just arriving at this place, seeing the revolving restaurant, seeing the top of the mountain, looking down, thinking, right, get on your skis or your snowboard, some bad guys chasing you, and how good would that be? So good.
Yeah, I haven't even skied in years. That's what's crazy, but it's so iconic, and again, I feel like it's a lot of these places. I mean, we could go to the Bahamas or try to find the beach, from Dr. No, but I feel like that's the one location where it's going to feel like you're in the movie.
Definitely. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so last question of the quickfire round. This is an interesting one as well. What is the most Bondian thing you have ever done?
The most Bondian thing? Ooh.
Yeah. Tricky one.
It's probably the way, well, this is a weird answer. But Bond has been married once. But it's probably the way I proposed to my wife. In that she's a flight attendant. So she's out of town a few nights a month. That's why she's out of town right now at 4:09 a.m. And when I went, I guess it would have been 7 years ago, when I went and bought the engagement ring, I was so scared shitless. I don't know if either of you guys are married, but the second you have that ring and you've put, whatever percent of your savings into this ring that's now in your pocket, you're scared shitless that you're going to get mugged or that it's going to fall out of a pocket. And my wife was up in Vancouver, Canada that night. That's why I had chosen this afternoon to go buy the ring. And I'm just driving home and I'm so scared. And so I call my buddy Patrick Egan in New York, and I say, I should just go do it right now. Fuck it. And so I drove straight to LAX without even a bag. And with her flight benefits, I was able to go standby right onto the very next flight to Vancouver. And I just went right up to her hotel. Well, I got into her hotel, and I had to call down from the lobby and act like I was calling from LA. And I had to say, I got to call you right back. What room are you in? She told me her room. I hung up, took the elevator, and knocked on the door, and said room service. So that's kind of the most subterfuge and coolest travel, last minute travel thing I've ever done.
Dude,
and she did say,
tears to my eyes.
That is a lovely story. Such a lovely story.
Thank you. She did say yes. It took her a couple hours because she was so pissed that I just showed up, and she was exhausted and had a hard day of work, and she was in the middle of eating. No, I'm just kidding. But we're still happily married 7 years later. So I guess I did okay.
She wasn't annoyed that you used up all of her air miles then?
No, it's one of the benefits of there's this whole thing where you're not supposed to brag or talk about it, but it's one of the benefits of if you work in the airline industry, as their benefits dwindle and they get paid less and less, but they get to put their spouse or significant other. So if they're not married yet, they can choose like one boyfriend, and I happen to be the one of her 7 boyfriends she chose. But you can put one boyfriend or girlfriend and your 2 parents on your list as being able to stand by on any flight like you can. So I've been lucky to have that benefit for 9 years, and it's been a bunch of fun. And we've gone crazy places all over the world and been to 4 continents. And I'm going to look you guys up the next time we come to London.
Damn
Yeah,
right. Well,
do definitely.
my fiance is she lives in LA, so I'm over there all the time, man. So we'll hang out next time I'm over.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to meet in person. That'd be great.
Cool, man. Let's crack on to the meat of the interview then, Chris. Do you want to kick it off, or shall I go with the first question?
No, you go this time. Go for it.
So basically, you've written this book, Shaken Not Stirred. I've got my copy here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for buying the hardcover.
No,
or the,
no, it is
the
paperback.
The paperback. There is no hardcover, but I mean, thanks for buying the real thing, and I'll sign it if you bring it to LA.
Beautiful. I'll definitely do that. I've got to confess, I haven't been able to read it yet because I'm one of those people that buys a million books and they just kind of stack up. So it's in the queue.
That's okay.
I haven't even read Solo yet, so that tells you how behind I am with.
I'm honored to be in that company, and I can tell you how it ends. He writes a James Bond book.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
So what is it then about Bond that made sort of inspired you to kind of get involved so much that you're going to write a book? I mean, what is the thing that kind of captures your imagination about Bond?
I think the thing that captures me most about spyhood is because I'm in the movies and I was an actor growing up as a kid. I think the part that I've always loved about Bond is that he takes on a fake name and a fake profession, and sometimes they're so ridiculous, but I love that he plays a character every mission he goes on. And I was, especially, it was after seeing Casino Royale, I was really interested in, what had happened was I stumbled across this anecdote about one of the people that Ian Fleming based James Bond upon. Now, if you Google this, there's at this point at least 12 different people who claimed I was the person he based James Bond upon, men and women. But at this one moment in 2007, I just had discovered one of them, Dusko Popov, who was this Yugoslavian double agent, who, of all of them, you can claim probably inspired Casino Royale more than any of the other characters, because it is acknowledged that the way Fleming met him was a mission to go observe him in a casino and see why or how he was blowing all of the money that the Brits were giving him to feed them information. And he discovered that he was blowing it all on the baccarat tables. And so that one little anecdote really inspired me to create this whole adventure and create kind of a Shakespearean love for Ian Fleming. And the reason because I'm in the movies, of course, I had to go overboard and 70% of the book is my imagination, and 30%, all the people in it, except for one or two, are real people. But beyond kind of that first anecdote of Ian Fleming and Dusko Popov meeting in a casino, the rest of it is my imagination and kind of putting these two guys in locales and adventures that, although they may not have participated in, it's very likely that the British spy industry and the American spy industry helped the Norwegians. It's very possible that we were down in the Congo trying to, get our hands on that first store of uranium, and that first store of uranium from the Congo did end up in the hands of the Manhattan Project. So a lot of the stuff in the book is true, but adding Ian Fleming to it is my imagination.
That's great. That's very Fleming-esque of you, in that a lot of people would say that was kind of like Fleming's method as well. Take something that's rooted in fact and then just add, a healthy sprinkling of imagination on top of it.
Well, that's why I did the book in the format it's in, which you'll see when you read it. It's written in the format of his reports from the field during World War II, and he acknowledges throughout the book that he's becoming more of a writer as he writes this report and letting his imagination go. And some of it may be exaggerated. And so we never really know what's real and what's true and what's exaggerated. And as the book goes on, more and more of it is exaggerated because he's becoming more and more of the writer who 10 years later will write Casino Royale.
It's a nice little setup. That I like the sound of it. It's really good. So the premise is basically the narrator is Ian Fleming, or sort of writing for Ian Fleming as a character, or what's the sort of premise behind it?
Yeah, I mean, originally the first draft of the book, he was called Ian Fleming, and Dusko Petrovich was called Dusko Popov. And then I thought, it's not all true, and obviously I don't have the rights to this or permission from the family, and I also want to create my own thing. I mean, there's already been Ian Fleming fictions out there. There's Ian Fleming is a character in that John Pearson book we talked about earlier. I've noticed there's another gent online who you guys will probably have in your next podcast who's done a series of Ian Fleming World War II adventures. And then there's the BBC show, and Sean Connery's son, Jason Connery, played Ian Fleming in a TV miniseries. So I'm not the first to do this. So I wanted to set it apart and make it my own. And so I've kind of created this. It's kind of this terrible term we use in the movies for movies like Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity is found footage, which is this hot new term, or it was hot a couple years ago, Cloverfield, or, for this, a movie that seems like we just found this video and we're watching it. And so I created my book sort of like that. When you open the book, the first thing is an introduction that says that the Queen has just authorized the release of all these secret documents from World War II that have been classified. And in them, we discovered this old report from this very famous gentleman. Unfortunately, his family is denying everything, and he won't let us use his real name. But we want to publish this as a public service, so we're changing his name, but everything in it else is exactly as it's written in the report. And so in the book, his name is changed. On the cover, his name is blacked out, like it's been redacted by the CIA. And in the book, his name is changed to Yoan. We never hear his last name, although the Dusko character nicknames him Flem. So there are little winks that this could be Ian Fleming without opening myself up to a lawsuit.
Yeah, nice.
That's a very sneaky yet creative way of doing it. I'm impressed. That's a cool way of getting around that problem.
It's been fun. People have complimented it, and I think it kind of gets you into the book right when you read it.
So did you kind of like, I suppose one of the most difficult things for like the non-Fleming authors is to kind of get the tone and the feel of the book right. So like, did you try and write consciously in a certain style, or did you just sort of let it flow naturally as you, or how did you approach that?
It's a great question. It's such a hard thing to do, and I don't know if I did it right. I'm reading this great new book about how F. Scott Fitzgerald was inspired to write The Great Gatsby, and by this really brilliant English professor in England, actually, Sarah Churchwell. And in it, she talks, about famous authors from the 1920s and how they were, imitating. At times, they'd imitate, how each other would write and their voices. And I don't know how you imitate a voice, or how you, maybe I'm not quite skilled enough to break down sentence structure and do it exactly like that. All I did was, the 6 months that I was working on the book, I said, I'm only going to read Ian Fleming books. And then when I was done with when I got through all the Ian Fleming James Bond books, I moved into the non-Fleming books. That's when I read the John Pearson. For those 6 months, I said, I'm only going to read James Bond. And I don't know if hopefully it kind of through osmosis got into my brain, and I was able to write like him just because I was reading it so much and burying myself in it. There are moments that I specifically tried to imitate. The beginning of my book, the first sentence of my book is supposed to, and no one's ever called me out on it yet in the year the book's been out, so I don't know if anyone's noticed.
Let me just check. Hold on.
Oh, but the first sentence of my book is the first sentence of when the Ian character starts writing, the first sentence of the chapter called Preface to My Report, that first sentence is supposed to be a different version of the first sentence of Casino Royale. They're both about how, after 3:30 in the morning, a casino can drive men to nausea. And I can't remember my wording or his wording, but if you compare them next to each other, they're supposed to be very similar. So there are moments like that. But besides that, I just hope that it was in my blood. And then the other thing I did was I was lucky enough. I've lived about a year of my life off and on in London. I did a semester abroad there during college, and I also worked on a movie there for 7 months, The Phantom of the Opera. And so I've made a ton of great friends who live in England, and that's why I have to get back. And one of them is a great TV writer named Jamie Crichton. He filmed all the behind-the-scenes footage for the Phantom of the Opera DVDs. And now he's a great TV writer. He's written on Ripper Street and this medical drama that I'm going to forget the name of, and Law and Order UK. Anyway, I sent him the first draft of the book, and I said, will you be my dialect coach? Please read this and give me notes on the dialect. And he wrote back, and he was fantastic. He was like, this phrase was probably not used until the 80s. This, you could use more of this phrase here. Why are you using bloody 3 times a page? That's so stereotypical. So Jamie deserves a lot of the credit too. He really helped make it seem like a British voice. But you guys are really going to be the tough judges on that. It's easy for people in California and Oregon to think it sounds like it was written by a Brit. I'll be interested to hear what you guys think.
Well, Chris and I will read the book and do a review in a future podcast, and then we'll put it to the test. It's funny.
That'd be great.
Actually, I went to see, what's that Liam Neeson movie where he's on the plane that's just come out?
Non-stop.
Non-stop. I went to see
how is it?
It's pretty awful, to be honest with you.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It was one of those things where it's set on a flight from the States to London. And there's so many things that the flight attendants who are all English are saying that it's just like, that just doesn't quite sound quite right. It's like that weird perception of how an English person would speak that's just a little off. But it'll be fun to see how that works in the book.
Imagine 350 pages of that.
I'm sure it won't be that. There was one interesting thing which quite a few people have heard about Fleming, was that he had certain sort of habits when it came to his writing. So he had sort of set hours in the day that he'd get up, have a snorkel, come back, do 2 or 3 hours of writing, whatever it was, have lunch, do some more writing.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything similar? Obviously, I don't know if you went out and had a snorkel every day that you wrote, but is there anything similar? Do you have sort of set hours in the day that you used to write, or any sort of particular habits that you had?
Well, one advantage he had over me was that he's able to take a leave of absence from work. Yeah. And he would write a book a year on his holiday in Jamaica at GoldenEye. And I think, for the first couple books, he still had his job as a foreign editor. I don't think he was with Reuters at that time. Maybe, is it Kemsley?
Kemsley, yeah, that's right.
Kemsley Newspaper Services. But he would take a leave of absence for a month, go to Jamaica and write a book. I still had a full-time job, so I have to kind of manage my time that way. And luckily in the movies, there are some down periods. There are times where I'm working with Joel 12 hours a day if we're writing a script, or obviously if we're shooting something. But there are also times where maybe we just finished a project and he'll go on a vacation and disappear for a month, and I might have some time. But usually some of my crazy habits are I try to get up at 5 a.m. every day. Wow. And that's why I'm bragging about talking to you guys at 4, but it's not that big a deal for me. But the reason I do that is because I find that your brain, a lot of people who write and have a full-time job will write after work. I can't do that. My brain is too fried. So I try to write before the working hours in LA and New York. So I try to get up at 5 and write. The other thing I think is really helpful is to break up your writing into hour and a half or 2 hour. I read this great article in the New York Times by a psychologist or psychiatrist or a sleep therapist about a year ago about how we know that sleep cycles are in hour and a half intervals, your REM cycles and all that, but that we're now discovering that also the brain while you're awake also works in hour and a half cycles. And I find that if I write for an hour and a half, if I then take a 15-minute or half-hour break and go do something else or return phone calls or return emails, it clears my mind, and then I go back for another hour and a half, and it totally, I'm totally refreshed and can see I can review what I wrote in the first hour and a half and see it with new eyes. But I only can write 3-4 hours a day max when I'm really going. There are times if I'm on a deadline where I've put in a 6 or 8 hour day, but these people who claim they write 8 hours a day, that's just not me. I can't do that. I get drained. I need to see the world. I have a full-time job. So at max, I write 3 or 4 hours a day. And that's another thing that drew me to Fleming. It's just like you're saying. He probably wrote, I think he would write 2 hours in the morning and then go snorkeling and then come back and review what he had written. And it all added up to 3 or 4 hours only a day. And that was so familiar to me that's another thing that drew me to him.
So do you think if the book is a huge success, you'll be able to, for the next one, go to your island retreat and just lock yourself away on your little island hideaway?
From your lips to God's ears.
One of the things that Chris and I thought was really cool is that you had a trailer for the book. There's something neither of us had ever seen before. So just talk to us a little bit about that, how that worked. We saw it on YouTube.
Well, I had started to see trailers for books popping up around the web. And to be honest, most of them are horrible. They're god awful, even for big, James Patterson books. I don't know if I've seen a James Patterson one, so now I'm dissing him. But no, even for big Simon and Schuster and Random House books, the trailers are terrible. But when I started seeing them, I thought, oh wow, this is the area where I can kind of show what I can do. And really all the credit goes to the team that I was able to put together, because I'm in this business and some people owed me some favors. I was able to ask this really talented cinematographer, Byron Werner, who had shot some things for Joel and who shot a big movie called Phantom last year with David Duchovny and Ed Harris. I was able to ask him to shoot it, and that's why it looks so good. Wow. I was able to ask a friend, Joe Audition, who's a big commercial director and editor in Chicago, will you edit it? I was able to ask my friend Andrew Johnson, who's an apprentice of Hans Zimmer, will you do the music? So it was my idea and my little script, but those guys made it look so professional, and that's an advantage I had that most people aren't going to have. And I don't know if I'll have it next time, because now I owe them for giving me that Saturday and longer to make that trailer.
One thing I wanted to ask is, because had I been in your position, I would have insisted that I'd have done this. Is that you cocking the gun at the end of the trailer?
Yeah, all the hands in it are mine.
Yeah,
We
good
couldn't.
man.
You know, I think one of the problems with some book trailers I've seen is, you know, people who haven't made as much film stuff don't know to keep it simple, and maybe to keep actors out of it, because it's very hard for someone who's not a professional director to get a believable performance on film. So I knew I didn't want anyone in it. At most, I just wanted some hands. But I'm such an idiot. I'm working on my second book, and as I'm writing it, I've already thought of what the trailer is going to be, and it has an actor in it. So I've already broken my own rule. But I'll probably not make that trailer for, you know, another 6 months. So maybe I'll come up with a better idea.
No, that sounds good. Well, it was a good bunch of friends to have for it, because it was really effective. When both Tom and I watched it, we thought, you know, this is ace. So we look forward to seeing the next one whenever that's done as well. Is that sort of a Bond-related book as well, or what's the plan for that one?
It's not. You know, I wanted to. There's a part of me that wants to write a sequel, and I actually have mapped out 3 books. I know what the other 2 books would be. Book 2 would take place in the 50s, and book 3 in the 60s. But the problem is, you know, it's not a franchise that I really own. There's other people doing it. I mean, John Pearson did it long before I did. I need to go out and prove myself with a wholly original idea. And so that's what I'm doing with my next book. It's a political thriller. It's still got espionage and action and sex in it, and all the great things that are in the Bond series, but it's totally my idea. But I would love, you know, maybe someday, if I'm successful and Shaken Not Stirred finds a wider and wider audience, and more people demand it, I'll be able to do a sequel. But it just, right now, when, you know, Fleming has just been on the BBC, it just feels like I could do something a little more original. I'm really glad I did it for my first one, because it's given me the opportunity to meet a lot of great people like you guys. The book came out when Skyfall was released, and that got me a lot of extra publicity. And I may not get that with my next book. And so there are going to be a lot of challenges with that. But it's something that I've got to do. And speaking of Fleming, I keep mentioning it, and I wanted to ask you guys what you thought. I, to be honest, have still not watched it. I kind of decided not to watch it, because in case I ever do my second and third book, I don't want to have kind of Fleming and what they did in Fleming in the back of my mind. But I know you guys talked about it in your last podcast, but I haven't listened to that episode yet. What did you guys think of it?
Yeah, it was. I think all round it's got mixed reviews, to be honest. And I think for me, it was cool in the way they did it, in the sense, like you were talking about earlier, in the sense that there was, you know, real events that he was actually involved in, just you know, sexed up a little bit and made a little bit more entertaining, I suppose. I think the main problem a lot of people had, myself included, was having Dominic Cooper as Ian Fleming, because it just, for some reason, I mean, the guy's a good actor, he's a great actor, but it wasn't the right feel for me. I don't know. How did you feel, Chris?
Yeah, well, very much the same as you. I also thought, I mean, some of the scenes they had were really well done, and you know, a little bit of gloss was put on them. You know, a little bit of a fantastical element was put in, which I think worked. But the main issue I had was the characters, for me, were quite two-dimensional. Like, for a good story, you need three-dimensional characters. You need bad guys that have a bit of goodness to them, a bit of warmth to them. You need the so-called good guys that have got a bit of a dark side to them. And while watching it really seemed to me like, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, and you know, there wasn't much. The characters could have been developed a bit more, I think. That was my opinion. So overall, we're really glad it was done, definitely. And it had some really good action scenes and good elements, but there are certain parts of it which I think could have been done a little bit better.
I tell you what,
Yeah.
the worst part for me was there's copious amounts of Dominic Cooper sex face sprinkled throughout the episodes.
Oh, wow.
They really go all out on it, and there's so many shots of literally his face is all you can see on camera, and that made me feel very uncomfortable.
And just for Aaron's sake, Tom's perfected this face, which he did show in a previous podcast. So if you could please show it just for Aaron.
Bring that out again. I don't know. I'm guessing you've seen Breaking Bad, right, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, it's the greatest.
Okay, you remember Uncle Tio?
Is he the old guy who rings the bell?
The old guy who rings the bell. You remember?
Okay, yeah, of course.
Like that. It's just like that. It's quite shocking for a man who's a good looking guy like Dominic Cooper to remind me of Uncle Tio is it's pretty intense.
Bond doesn't make a face during sex. He just smirks.
Cool. Yeah,
he just looks cooler. Exactly.
Well, the other thing is we've never really seen him have sex, which is the way it's supposed to be.
There was that brief bit in Die Another Day, wasn't there, where you just see a little bit. I remember it being in the press of the first proper sex scene in a Bond movie.
Right.
Yeah, but
they put that in because they had to find something that the press would write about Die Another Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, completely agree with you on that one.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Is you're supposed to cut away, and that's how I do the sex scenes in my book. But here's the problem. So I go to Thanksgiving after the book has come out, and my 95-year-old grandfather, Grandpa Harold, he marches across the room and grabs me and says, "I thought I told you to put more sex in your books." So my next book is like the first draft has like graphic, like 50 Shades of Grey sex scenes.
Just for Grandpa.
And they're for Grandpa Harold. If anyone is grossed out by them, it's his fault, okay?
Grandpa Harold sounds like my kind of guy, man. I want to meet him.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of questions. We've got lots of really good background about your book now, which is great. So it'd be quite interesting to hear a bit of your thoughts in regards to some of the sort of continuation authors for the Bond series. Have you read many of their other books, and what are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I've read at least one of each of the authors. That's during that period when I was reading all the Bond books. I didn't want to read all the Raymond Bensons. I decided, I'll read one of each, and that's now they're just writing one each. And I have not read Solo, like you, Thomas, but I think it's neat that they're recruiting, better known writers or not just better known, but kind of really prestigious authors. But And look, I love that they do it, that they keep Bond alive as a literary character, and it's my dream that someday the Fleming family will call me and say, "We read Shaken Not Stirred, will you write a Bond book?" And I have an idea for a Bond book.
That's good.
That I'd love to do. For me, though, I don't know. It's starting to feel a little like the Star Trek novels. It's starting to feel like there's so many and they blend together, and they're not really in the same continuity. One of them Bond's in the 60s, and which I think is a great, really cool narrative device. But if I was in charge of Glidrose Publications, what I would do is I'd probably start over from scratch, kind of do a retcon, like a Casino Royale, where, maybe you start the series over. You pick a year that it's set in, and or maybe you start 3 series at once and do like 3 different eras, and and kind of fit the continuity of the new series in, maybe intertwine it with the Fleming books. But when I was younger and a reader and first discovered the Bond books and first discovered Tolkien, and I loved series. It's why young adult, it's always series that do so well. it's because kids love to read several books in a row and love the serialization of it. You know, it's their Mad Men, it's their Breaking Bad, and I think one thing that no longer draws me to the Bond books is that they are one-offs, and I'd love to see. I'm kind of a non-traditionalist this way. It's something I'd love to see them start to do more and more in the movies, in fact. And I'm excited by the rumor that the next 2 Bond movies are being written at the same time and might be a 2-part series. It was a rumor that was then debunked by Daniel Craig, so who the hell knows if it's true. But I was one of the people that was really excited by that rumor and really think that would be neat. Anyway, so that was another long 8-part answer to your simple question.
It's all right. You're covering them all at the same time, so this is great. But
yeah.
No,
Just out of interest before we talk about like the next Bond movie and where that's going, like, did you actually read any of the Young Bond books by Charlie Higson?
Oh, okay. So I've read I love the Young Bond books. I mean,
so glad you said that, man.
To be honest, those might be in fact, here's my copy of By Royal Coach. This is the first one, right? Yes.
Yeah.
That's the most recent one, yeah.
So, to be honest, I like the Young Bond series better than any other continuation author.
What did I say the other day, Chris? What did I say?
That is exactly what we think. Me and Tom, we love Higson's books. We totally agree. They are the best non-Fleming Bond books.
Well, and they kind of do what I'm talking about. They continue between each one. They fit into the continuity of the Fleming books. Another kind of unknown book. It's kind of silly, but have you guys read the Moneypenny Diaries?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't got around to those.
It's a little silly, but it does some neat. It's very much like the John Pearson book, in that it ties Bond and Moneypenny into the Cuban Missile Crisis and some real world events. It's a little silly, but and I'm not sure that Moneypenny would be, the author may give her a little too much to do, and real Bond fanatics might be kind of like, oh, come on. But I just, it's so original. And again, it's tied, it says right in the beginning that it's set, I think it's set between On Her Majesty's Secret Service and You Only Live Twice. So I like I said, I'm kind of a sucker for those retcons that fit into the original continuity. I loved the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie because it fit into that original continuity in such an original way. And I think that's kind of what I'm missing now with the continuation authors.
I'd agree with that completely, because it's the last 3 books have been set in completely different eras. With like the one before Solo, Carte Blanche was set in the current day, and Bond was he was 30 and was a veteran of Afghanistan, and it didn't feel like Bond at all. It just felt like some random kind of spy that wasn't Bond. It was really strange. But that's a very good point. I think that's the beautiful thing about Young Bond, is that it fits into that continuity. And I think you're absolutely right in the sense that they almost need to choose, say, after The Man with the Golden Gun, choose a year in Bond's life and write within that boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what Kingsley Amis did with the first Bond continuation novel. Actually, I think Man with the Golden Gun, there's rumors that he actually had to write half of that because Fleming passed away without completing the manuscript, or only completing a very rough first draft. And then Kingsley Amis took off from there. And look, obviously you can't do that for 40 years. I'm not saying that's what they should have done. But I think the series kind of needs a reboot. But they seem to be in the New York Times book review and get a lot of publicity every time they recruit a new big name author. So what do I know?
Well, I don't know. I think we've all got a good idea for that going forward. So hopefully, if it happens, that'll be amazing.
But I'm glad to hear you guys read the books, because a lot of most Bond fans have never even read one, And the books are very different from the movies. And to be honest, my book, I'd say, this should have been part of my earlier answer about Fleming's voice. My book is more of a Bond movie, or that's what I was going for. I wanted the third act, the last third of that book, the climax, to feel like a big Bond action-packed set piece at the end of a Bond movie. The reason I did that is because I knew 90% of the people who might read this are going to have seen every Bond movie but not read any of the books.
Well, I suppose that matches up because we wanted to ask you a bit about, because you work in the movie industry, sort of a bit about what it is you do and all that kind of stuff. So I suppose that ties in perfectly to that question, doesn't it?
Well, I worked for Joel Schumacher, like I was saying earlier, and I've worked for him for over a decade. I started as his assistant, carrying his bottle of water on the set of The Phantom of the Opera. And now I'm in more of a development role. We don't really have titles. He only has 2 employees. So my title would probably be something like head of development. Reading scripts, looking for new projects for us, giving notes on the projects we're currently involved with. Those are kind of my main duties.
Okay, great, nice one. So going on to the next Bond film, what you sort of mentioned briefly about possibility of the two-parter with John Logan writing both. What do you sort of want to see out of Bond 24?
Well, besides the 2-part thing, which I hope it's true, and who knows. And before I answer, do you guys agree? Do you like the 2-part idea, or did you shudder when that was
love
announced?
it. I've got a suspicion that a lot of people have. I'm not unique in this. That this will be the return of Blofeld and Spectre. Why else would you have a 2-part Bond unless you were bringing back the greatest Bond villain of all time?
Well, and of course it was announced. The reason, by the way, probably my favorite Bond book. Yeah. Which isn't really a Bond book. You guys may know where I'm going. Is The Battle for Bond, which is yeah. If you haven't read it, it's fantastic. It's about the legal battles between Kevin McClory and first Ian Fleming, and then Ian Fleming's estate and the Broccoli's over the rights to Bond. And it was only in the last couple months that the Broccoli family finally got Kevin McClory's rights to Thunderball. And what that means is they can finally use the Blofeld character if they want. And so, of course, there was a lot of screaming over the internet, they're finally going to do it. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up for that. I would love that, especially being an owner of a white cat, as I am. But we shall see. The other thing I'd love to see is what I loved about Skyfall is the revelation of some of his backstory. Not too much, but his history with M and the visit to the estate, the lodge, or whatever we want to call it. I want more of that. I love kind of the Batman Begins aspects of Skyfall. And I would love to have a little more of that, a little more of a tease, and not just be Bond on a mission and, he's upset, he's not going to get the mission done. Oh, look, he finished the mission. I like that there's a little more personal connection to it. And I think that's why Quantum of Solace, that's one of the big reasons why Quantum of Solace has been the least popular of the last 3, is because it was the one that really didn't have that. So that's what I want to see out of the character, and they know this. I'm sure that's what they're going to do. John Logan wrote Skyfall. He's gonna do the same things.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
exciting. Again, I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I thought to myself, the thing is, Eon Productions are probably the worst at keeping secrets. So, because they denied, didn't they, that it was going to be a 2-parter. But with what we know about Eon, I'm sure that just leaked out somewhere and they're trying to cover their tracks a little bit. But
look, it's smart from a production standpoint to do a two-parter because, they almost lost Sam Mendes by taking the big break after Skyfall. Daniel Craig is not, a young guy. They really should be filming these two back to back, in kind of Peter Jackson style. Yeah. That way they keep Sam Mendes and they keep Daniel Craig, and there's no chance that they lose either one of them. I know Daniel Craig's contracted for another 2 no matter what, but if you put another 3 years, we're talking about the next one coming out in 2018. He may even be over 50 then.
We don't want him to end up looking like Rog in A View to a Kill if we can help it.
Yeah, exactly. Or Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Here's an interesting question. Me and Tom were discussing this in one of the earlier podcasts. So say we go ahead and we get the Spectre or Quantum Organization and Blofeld is there. If you had to choose an actor today to play Blofeld, who do you think could pull off that role? What a role that would be.
Well, I think that you have to do something totally different than I because of Dr. Evil and Inspector Gadget. I think you've got to do something like Heath Ledger's Joker. I think you have to do a look that's so different from the Donald Pleasance, Telly Savalas, Mike Myers look. You have to give him a dog instead of a cat. No, so I would probably go with Brad Pitt with his hair grown out again.
Interesting.
Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall.
All right.
No, I would get someone with long hair. John Bon Jovi. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think you want to get a fantastic actor like Javier Bardem who really wants to sink his teeth into it. And the other thing is, well, I changed my mind. I was going to say you have to introduce him right from the beginning of the movie, because one of my criticisms of Skyfall is that it doesn't really start till Javier Bardem's in the movie, which isn't until 45 minutes or an hour in. And for me, the movie's slow up until then. But let's be honest. We all know it's gonna be a 2.5 hour movie, and we're not gonna see its Blofeld till 2:25, and then it's gonna be to be continued. That's what we all want.
Do you know what?
That's the perfect.
I got chills down my spine, man, because I want that so badly. I want it so badly. I want it to be just this last little teaser bit at the end of the movie where
I think the Dominic Cooper sex face is coming out, Thomas. You better be careful. No, what they need to do is, okay, here's a villain. This whole movie's about this villain, and we think it's Daniel Craig versus Jim Broadbent, or no, I don't know who some young English actor who's this villain. And then at 2:25, we realize Blofeld's been pulling the strings the whole time. Maybe Blofeld killed someone, that's close to Daniel Craig. And then part 2 becomes kind of like You Only Live Twice. It becomes James Bond, seeking revenge on Blofeld.
I think you've got that's exactly what I want from it. How do you feel about that, Chris?
Exactly the same. Yeah, I'm just hoping when John Logan listens to this, because obviously he does every week, then he'll make the necessary amendments to his next draft if he hasn't done it already.
Well, no, everyone in Hollywood is on a big group conference call every Monday, so I'll mention it to him.
Okay,
I'll pitch this take to him, as they say.
Sounds good.
So I suppose we better start wrapping up because you've got to go and catch your flight soon. But we thought we'd have one question to kind of wrap things up, which was, if you had carte blanche to make your own Bond film, you can make your dream Bond film with any actor, director, any plot. What would you go with? Who would be your Bond? Who would be your director? What would be the storyline?
Who would be your main villain?
I think I just gave you the storyline. But well, I'd of course give the job to Joel Schumacher, because I have to say that
does he listen to this podcast?
Yeah, he's paid for my flight to New York in an hour.
You just got a pay rise.
No, to be honest, what I would do is I would give it to an American director, which you guys will probably hate, but I think it's time to let an American run with the franchise. 20 whatever films, and there's been no American yet. Who that would be, man, you've put me on the spot. Obviously I was excited about the Tarantino rumor. Although he probably would go overboard in some ways. I'm a huge fan, but I don't know if he's right. In terms of the actor, I would, going back to American director, I would love to see, Spielberg was supposed to do a Bond film in the 70s. I'd love to finally see him do one. And then in terms of an actor, if Daniel Craig retired, who would it be? I love the Idris Elba rumors, just because I love kind of the total, the historicness of it and the reinvention of it. And at this point, I don't think there should be any rules like that he has to be a white guy. By the time Daniel Craig's done, I don't know. Maybe
Ian
Idris
Fleming would be turning in his grave at that statement, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. You go read Live and Let Die. Exactly. Read Live and Let Die, and that book has been burned outside some libraries. Go read Live and Let Die. But who would I go with? Who's like a young English actor right now that I'm really excited about?
There's a guy who me and Tom both like, who we think would be absolutely perfect for the role. Michael Fassbender.
Oh, he'd be great. He'd be incredible. He really would. I think that's a great choice. I can't do any better than that. And his first movie that I know of, I can't guarantee. I'm sure he was in some British films or Irish films or German films. Who the hell even knows where he's from? But his first American financed movie is a movie called Blood Creek, which is this horror film that unfortunately was only in theaters for a week. But my boss directed it, and it was starring, at the time, the biggest star in it was Dominic Purcell from Prison Break. So his was the name above the title. But if you go and watch the movie now, it was starring Henry Cavill and Michael Fassbender. And it's available on DVD. And I think Lionsgate should re-release this movie. I mean, you put those two names, Superman, Magneto, above the title. There are weekends during the year when there's no competition, and they could open that to $20 million. But that's a great little DVD find on Amazon or Netflix. It's called Blood Creek, and Michael Fassbender plays this Nazi general who turns into this like vampire monster. It's awesome. You guys have got to check it out.
All right, will do.
But so I have on my computer this little quick time of Michael Fassbender's audition before anyone knew who he was. I remember Joel emailing it to me and saying, "You've got to check this guy out. I'm casting him." Or I'm fighting with the producers to let me cast him. So yeah, Fassbender would be a great choice.
Cool, that's a good one to hear.
Yeah, I think that would make a good movie. Fassbender as Bond, The Return of Blofeld. That would, I'd go and watch that.
Well, he'd be better as Blofeld, guys.
He would be pretty good.
He's a great villain.
That is true. Cool. Well, I think that about wraps up today's interview. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know we're excited to have our very first guest on James Bond Radio, so it's been great. Thanks for coming on.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I'd love to come back when that new movie comes out and we can see how my predictions did.
Well, that would be great.
We were discussing before that we should have some multiple guests and do like a roundtable discussion for some future episodes. So we'll definitely get you back on board for that.
I'm in.
Nice. And
Bye.
yeah, thanks a lot, Aaron. Been good to meet you. And
You too, guys.
what was the name of your cat? So we got to say goodbye to the cat.
Oh, Mitten.
Mitten. Goodbye, Mitten.
I wonder if that's. We never find out what Blofeld's cat's called, did we? So
No.
that would be funny if that was Blofeld's cat's name.
Yeah, we'll find out. All right, excellent. Nice one. Cheers, Aaron.
Okay, bye, guys. Thanks for everything.
Bye.
Okay, so that was really cool, wasn't it? I enjoyed meeting Aaron. He's got some great thoughts on Bond and excellent taste, I must add, in films and books.
Yeah, he's top bloke, and he seems to have exactly the same taste in. Well, he liked the same films as us, the same books as well, like you mentioned, and he's got the right idea of how the Bond series should go. And yeah, excellent. It's good to see people on the same sort of wavelength, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, completely. It was fun. I was wondering how it would be bringing somebody else into the mix with the podcast, and I think it worked very well. I was quite happy with that. We should do more interviews, definitely.
I think so. Yeah. Without a doubt, we'll get a few more guests on. Don't worry about that.
So let's answer our trivia question of the day. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
So my question to you was, in what movie do we see Bond ski for the third time?
Okay, now I am going to go with For Your Eyes Only.
Ding! Absolutely correct. Well done.
Oh, I thought that ding was a dong.
No, that would be a...
Okay. Phew, that was a lucky one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. I want to go skiing like Bond.
Me too. I've never been skiing, actually. That's a skill I need to have.
Yeah, I like the snowboarding, but I tried the skiing one time because, just to see what it feels like.
You're more of a View to a Kill, Roger Moore kind of guy then.
I am, yeah. I've got California Girls playing in my headphones as I'm going down. Okay, so on to my trivia. How does Dr. Tynan die?
By scorpion sting.
Whereabouts?
Down the back of his shirt.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this scene?
It stars Winton Kidd.
Yeah.
And it was shot in South Africa.
That is true. Well, yeah, I believe. No, I think it might have been. It was meant to be South Africa, but it's in. Yeah, sorry. That's right. But I think it was actually there were two alternate takes of this. Do you know that?
I don't know this. I'm learning something.
Now I'm really, really not upset because that's a bit strong, but I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't use the alternative take, which they shot first, which was instead of opening the back of his collar and popping it down his back, when he said he had a sore tooth and the other guy sort of opened his mouth to show him to open his mouth, the doctor, Wint puts the scorpion into Dr. Tynan's mouth, and so it stings him, and that's how he dies. And
that's much better.
Yes, so much better. They said it was a bit almost too, I don't know, that film was quite light-hearted, and they thought it was a bit of a scarier death or whatever, but that would have, would be so much more visual, and it's a shame that didn't happen, but there we go. True. But yeah, got the trivia right, so well done.
Thanks, man.
Good one.
Yeah, that is good. I didn't know that. I've learned something today. Nice. Okay, so before we finish up, it's Guess the Quote time.
Ooh, I like this.
We're going to have to get some jingles made for this.
I know, it's got to be done.
Because I've got the Bond facts one where I go, it's time for Bond facts. And then we need one for Guess the Quote. But naturally I want to go, it's Guess the Quote time, which is exactly the same. So maybe you can do the jingle. Come on, give us a Guess the Quote jingle.
Bond, James Bond. That is crap. I will come up with a good one next time.
I was not expecting that. That was great.
Oh well, you never know. I'll come up with a good one next time.
I like it. Maybe it can just be a different jingle each time.
I think so. Why? What are you trying to say? Anyway. What was wrong with that one?
No, that was great. Stick with it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my quote I posed to you at the end of our last episode was this one. With a laughing stock of the intelligence community.
You nail every single one of these. I'm gonna edit all the little quotes that you've done, put them in a CD. It'll be a bestseller at Christmas.
Damn right. iTunes #1 spoken word.
iTunes. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I think that has to be the Minister of Defence Jeffrey Keane. I'm just trying to think which film it's in. Laughingstock. I believe that's Living Daylights.
Absolutely right. And why is he upset? Why is he pissed off? Freddie.
Because MI6 they've just managed to help in the help General Georgy Koskov defect, but suddenly he's disappeared. What's happened to him? He's been taken. So moments after they've made the biggest coup. There, exactly what you said.
And that's why we're the laughingstock of the intelligence community.
They're not very good sometimes, are they? Need to pull their socks up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bloody Georgie.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my quote for this week. Let's give this a go. Okay. I'll see you in Miami. Would you like me to say it again?
Yeah.
I can add a little bit to the start of that.
I'm gonna need something more than that because I'm stumped.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Gracias, Galena. I'll see you in Miami.
One more time.
Okay, sorry. Right, let's get into it. Okay, here we go. Wait a minute.
You haven't done the usual eyes closed summoning.
No,
I know. Soul
that's why it's not so good.
Yeah.
All right, let me get into it. Okay. Gracias, Galena. I'll see you in Miami. That was still a bit lame. I'll do a good one for the next time, but do you get the idea?
I do. I'm going to give it some thought because I'm hearing Roger, but I'm thinking, but for some reason I'm thinking Sean because of Miami and Goldfinger. But it's Roger, isn't it?
Go with your instincts. Your instincts.
All right. I'm going to give that some thought. I'm going to watch all of the Rogers by next week so I can get the answer
back to back.
Nice.
Okay, cool. So there we go. Quit's done.
All right, so that's all for today's episode of James Bond Radio. What are we going to be talking about next time?
Well, episode. Do we call it 0010 or 010? I think we got to keep with the 00s.
Well, I think in the original Fleming books there were 3 00 agents, one of which was 007, true. One of which was 002, I think it was.
12.
And the other one was 0011.
11. There you go. So 0010 next week.
Yeah.
So for 0010, we're going to be back to our movie reviews and talking about one of our faves, which is Thunderball.
And he strikes like Thunderball.
Mr. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. I don't know what version that was.
That was pre-Shirley Bassey. That was the one they listened to. Like, fuck me, we've got to get somebody else. Let's get Shirley on board. Yeah, cool. It's going to be Thunderball next time. I'm starting to get a bit nervous, Chris. I will be honest with you. Because
what about?
We are, the way I see it, we're now nearing the climax, the end of the golden era of Bond. And after Thunderball's out the way, a lot of little holes start appearing. And we haven't got bang 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 brilliance anymore. We've got some dodginess coming up.
It is a bit slip sliding down the scale, but there are one or two that prop it back up.
Absolutely. I mean, there are some great ones coming, but for the first time, there's also some coming up that aren't so great. So I'm a bit nervous, man.
I guess we say that the level, the top level, can't be sustained forever. The Bond franchise will go on forever because so it should. But, there's always peaks and troughs, and I look forward to as many peaks as we can. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, then. Well, that's all for today. I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And James Bond Radio will return with Thunderball. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.